Is Disney Star Wars actually dead? And if so, who killed it? Or is the hunt for Ben Solo the beginning of a sequel trilogy resurgence? And is Jared Leto actually box office poison? We're going to talk about all of that and more today on The Outer Rim. Hey everybody, welcome to the inaugural episode of The Outer Rim. My name is James Thomas and sitting with me is Scott Furrier. And honestly, we're not really anybody special. We're not big Hollywood insiders. We don't have cool sources giving us all the tips on everything going on inside of Lucasfilm. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes with the current state of Star Wars. All we are just a couple of really big fans with a lot to say about it, so we're going to get into it right now. And with that being said, the current state of Star Wars.
Okay.
It's not really where we kind of wanted it to be at this point. We are going on, what is it now? 9 years?
Almost.
Since,
knocking on a decade.
Yeah, better part of a decade, yeah. Since Disney took over Lucasfilm. And I think it started off really hot. I think everybody can probably agree that The Force Awakens was a pretty big success.
Everyone, I believe, was pretty excited about The Force Awakens. I know I was.
Yeah.
And the movie, when I saw it, I was, kind of, what do you call it? You kind of go in with rose-tinted glasses.
Rose-tinted goggles.
But yeah, I was excited. I've been a big Star Wars fan since the early 80s, so I went into it with high hopes. The movie was good the first viewing of it was obviously very good to me.
Yeah.
But then kind of going back and looking at it, it almost, the rose tint kind of fades and you're kind of like, well, this is kind of a repeat of A New Hope.
And I thought that actually the first time I saw it, like, don't get me wrong, start to finish, I loved the movie. I think it looked great. It felt great.
Sounded.
And honestly, Disney Star Wars, I think, has nailed that kind of like lived in aesthetic that you think of now when you think of Star Wars. Like if you go back to the original trilogy, they did the best they could with what they had in the 70s and the 80s, and obviously everything looks a little dated now. And then with the prequel trilogy, everything was digitally created.
Yeah, you could really, it kind of took you out. Now going back and watching it, definitely the first Phantom Menace kind of, kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
Well, at least with the Phantom Menace, you still had proper sets for about half or at least a quarter of the movie. Like everything was at least still physical, and then they just put the blue screen in to fill it out. But with starting with Attack of the Clones and then into Revenge of the Sith, everything was completely digital. Like the actors were just standing on blue screen.
Like, I remember watching some of the making of Revenge of the Sith, and it was,
Christopher Lee actually just said he didn't even like it. He said he didn't know what he was doing, what was going on. He didn't know how to act because he couldn't see what was going to go in later. But because of that, and because the technology wasn't there yet, everything looked so sleek and animated. And George Lucas tried to go back and say, oh well, this is pre-war, so everything is supposed to look nicer. And then in the original trilogy, everything is post-war. It's all a lot more run down. And that's a fair argument to make, but there are these two clear distinctions with how those two trilogies looked. But with modern filmmaking and with modern art direction capabilities, I think Disney Star Wars really kind of nailed that look.
Yeah.
And at least for me, that's one of the things that I loved about The Force Awakens and then going into Rogue One. And then somewhere around The Last Jedi,
I don't know what
things started to fall apart.
Well, I think the consistency of direction of it kind of messed it up a little bit. But the biggest thing we need to try to, well, I think we know kind of, but who's responsible for everything that's happening with Star Wars? A lot of people has been pushing the hate on Kathleen Kennedy. I
They have.
myself was kind of like, get her out of there. But but
Well, I
you see
think
a lot of people that are super negative on her.
yeah,
Um,
I think a lot of the hate on Kathleen Kennedy, I think, stemmed from the whole like wokeism perception that a lot of people were putting
hmm
on Disney Star Wars because they were pushing Rey, like this strong female lead character.
Well, I think that the thing that got them the worst with the so-called woke thing
Was it the
is,
T-shirt?
what was it? The Force is female.
Yeah,
Is what it was.
I was getting there.
Okay, well, I didn't know you were going to say that.
When Kathleen Kennedy came out on stage with some of the other women associated with Star Wars at the time, and they were wearing the shirt that said "The Force is female," the the anti woke mob just ran with it, and it just became like
Yeah.
this like laser beam focus against Kathleen Kennedy. They're like, she's destroying Star Wars. That's not my Star
It's just that
Wars. Like,
one little thing she did. It's just like with Brie Larson, that one comment she had, just,
yeah.
that's
and
all
I
it takes.
and I don't mind Brie Larson, and like I get why Marvel cast her as Captain Marvel because she had just won the
For the
Oscar
Wrinkle in Time.
for
Or she,
Room. It was that movie Room.
oh, yes, I never saw it. So I knew she was
Neither
in
did
a wrinkle.
I. Neither did
She was
I.
in a
Like
wrinkle of time, and that's where that
was she in a
comment.
Wrinkle? I never watched A Wrinkle of Time either.
Supposedly, because she got on the stage and was like, it wasn't made for 40-year-old. Some comment like that, and people are like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's like, but I don't know. It's just that's all it takes nowadays is that one snippet. You see it on anybody that
Yeah.
wants to get any trash on anybody. They take one clip from anything that anybody has said, and that's it, and you're running
Yeah.
with it, and people are going to buy into it.
I think we really touched on the wokeism angle pretty solidly.
Yeah.
You've got your audience online that is they're just so against pushing Rey on people, and I really think I will honestly say I like Rey as a character,
Mm-hmm.
but she wasn't given good material to be fleshed out properly because you had this negative reception to The Last Jedi primarily. Because when The Force Awakens came out, you're like, okay, cool. Like, what's this Rey character going to be about? I hope they're going to do something cool with her. And like you had your obvious hints that she was going to be like, I don't know if people were thinking it. I kind of did like that she was going to be Kylo's sister because of the whole Luke and Leia relationship and the way that Kylo reacted when one of the one of the stormtroopers or one of the First Order officers was like some girl, and then Kylo just threw a fit for like no reason.
It's been a while since I've seen it, so I have to.
They were really kind of like hinting at this deeper connection between Rey and Kylo. So everybody was like starting their fan theories about who were her parents going to be. But then, in addition to all the other theories that people were coming out with for after The Force Awakens, Rian Johnson comes in and he makes The Last Jedi, and he just goes in such a different direction from what anybody was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually originally was giving him credit for that decision because it was interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'll say it was surprising. It was kind of like he just kind of poo-pooed on everything because he
Yeah,
was just like,
like
"Well, y'all thought
everybody.
this was going to happen? No."
Yeah, everybody was so sure that they had this storyline figured out.
Well, I think with Ray and Finn too, they kind of screwed that up too with that in the second one,
Well,
the
yeah.
Last Jedi.
Well, I think mostly because they just weren't really together. Like it was you had a very Empire Strikes Back feel to that movie, in that everybody went off and did their own thing. So Ray and Finn weren't together for that movie. Ray and Poe still had never met
Yeah.
up to that point. They didn't meet for the first time until the end, and then you thought that there was going to be a Ray and Poe relationship. Uh, but like it was interesting to me that Ray's parents were nobody, um, because you didn't need her to have this deeper connection to the lore. I liked the idea that she's just this completely new character, not tied to the greater storyline, who's kind of being given this prominence. And then with Kylo, I didn't honestly want a redemption story for Kylo.
Kind of hard
Um,
to really. I didn't. I still even like I rooted for him a little bit at the end because he kind of turned, but I was like, man, you did some bad stuff.
yeah, like
It's kind of like I don't know, dude.
uh, you don't want the son of Han Solo and Princess Leia, or the nephew of Luke Skywalker, to be a bad guy. And in that respect, I understand why Disney did what they did, and they went with the redemption story, because that's the safe route to take, especially after the backlash of The Last Jedi. But at the same time, the redemption storyline was already done. Like, you got that with Anakin. I I kind of just wanted Kylo to be bad.
Well, the thing with Anakin, though, he did. I mean, the redemption was there a little bit, but he didn't last long after it. It was like it wasn't like he was falling in love with a girl again, and like she's forgiven him for all of his sins and stuff. It's kind of like I don't know. It's different when it's your son or your daughter, and they're forgiving you because you're the father and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. The
Yeah.
dynamics are totally different, and it's a done deal though. We're not changing anything on that.
There's a lot of fuel out there, obviously, that we've covered, for there being so much negativity charged at Disney, charged at Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, uh, and I think all of this is ultimately affecting the current state of the property. And it's not limited to Star Wars when it comes to the online negativity,
Indiana Jones,
and how it
fun.
affects, and how it affects the return on the investment, and uh, the future for the property. We saw it with Indiana Jones, with the Dial of Destiny. We saw it with Superman. So much negativity charged at James Gunn, which actually really surprised me, because of how much
He's got a lot of
defense.
fans.
Yeah, when the story came out a few years ago about his tweets that got him fired initially from Guardians of the Galaxy, like, there was so much support gathered around him. I was really surprised when he got announced as the director of Superman, that so many people were bringing that up again, and trying to use it as fuel for negativity. But that was primarily coming from the Snyder fan
Well, I want
base.
to ask one question about this. I watched all of them. I enjoy them. Whatever. I went to the theater and seen some of them. But if you're going to complain about everything James Gunn is doing, and you're just so hell bent on the Snyderverse, where were you at when it came out? Why
Exactly.
didn't you go to the theaters? Why didn't you put your money where your mouth is? And then once it all went to the waste, it's just like, And I'm not blaming the fans totally, but it's on top of the fandom. wasn't there. It wasn't even just the fact that they didn't purposely go. No one, just the theater. People going to the theater isn't what it used to be. It's just
Yeah, it's
different.
not. The theater experience is not what it used to be.
We're stuff's it's changing big time with the streaming and all this
Yeah,
stuff, and then with the COVID
streaming,
and
post-COVID, movie theaters are having trouble getting staffed. The movie theaters that we go to locally aren't kept up very well,
mm-mm.
and nobody wants to pay $20 for a box of Reese's Pieces that you can get at the Dollar Tree for $1.25.
Yep.
The theater experience is not what it used to be, and people are more okay with, paying the $20 for the theater at home rental, because you're still going to pay that much to see it in the theaters. You're downgrading the size of your screen, but you're more comfortable at home. You're not around people, and nobody wants to people anymore.
I don't like people, so
or they don't want to pay that $20. I know I don't like paying $20 to rent a movie at home. If I'm going to
$24.99 too if it's new.
If I'm going to pay that kind of money, I want to see it on the big screen. But the quality of the films is a factor too, and I'm one of those. I'm guilty of it myself. I'm one of the ones that's okay waiting for it to hit one of the streaming services. Yeah. I didn't see Fantastic Four in theaters. It came out at the same time as Superman and Jurassic World Rebirth. Superman is one of my favorite properties. I made a point to go see that in the theaters on opening day. I wanted to support that film. I saw Jurassic World at the drive-in because it's significantly cheaper, and it was paired up with How I Train Your Dragon or something like that. So I was able to see two movies for less than it costs to go see one at a regular theater. But with Fantastic Four coming out like 1 week after all of that happened, I wasn't making an effort to go see Fantastic Four in theaters, and I didn't want to pay $20 to see it at home. So I waited for it to come to streaming, and that's one of the other things that people have kind of circled around to, and how it's affecting the theater experience, and how it's affecting how much money a movie makes. But one of the things also affecting the industry is the online chatter. Mm-hmm. Like you saw it, I think, especially recently with Tron Ares. And immediately from the start, from when that movie really started to like gain the traction that it was coming out, they've been working on it for about 10 years. But when it in the last year, when it was really starting to come out and you were starting to see the production photos and the trailers and everything, the online chatter immediately started because it starred Jared Leto.
The Jared Leto effect.
The Jared Leto effect. Is Jared Leto box office poison? That was the predominant argument online that I think seriously affected how that movie performed in theaters. Yeah. I think as of today, I think it's probably nearing its theatrical run if it hasn't already left theaters in certain areas. I think it only made like $135 million.
What makes you think that? What were they thinking? Like, oh, we'll get Jared Leto.
Well, at the time, because again, like you gotta look back to when that movie was started production initially, and what was going on at the time, and how Disney chooses their actors. I mentioned it earlier with Brie Larson,
and winning the award.
Yeah, Brie Larson won the Oscar. She immediately got cast as Captain Marvel. The original actor for Rhodey in Iron Man, whose name is currently escaping me.
I know who you're talking. Everyone knows who you're talking about.
Yeah. he won.
He was in Hustle and Flow.
Yeah, he did. He either won the Oscar for Hustle and Flow, I can't recall, or he was at least nominated for it. It was a huge deal. They cast him as Rhodey. It didn't work out. They replaced him with Don
I
Cheadle.
think there was some money involved that but he kind of went.
But with Jared Leto, they started the Tron Ares concept just a couple of years after Tron Legacy came out. And at the time, Jared Leto had just won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for, I think it was Dallas Buyers Club. And he was a hot commodity. He hadn't started mainstream films yet. He was a really, really good actor for really popular, more independent films like Dallas Buyers Club, like Fight Club, like Requiem for a Dream. He was in Alexander, which had its own string of issues, but he was a big part of that. And so they said, "Hey, Mr. Leto, do you want to? You're like you are our type of actor now. You are our type of high profile person. Do you want to come join Tron?" And at the time, it was supposed to be a direct sequel to Legacy. It was going to have Sam and Cora, and Ares was going to be the bad guy. That script ended up not working out, but Jared Leto remained attached. He said, if you guys ever want to circle back to this Ares character, give me a call. And so years go by, they reformatted the script and they turned Ares into the main character. Jared Leto was still under contract to play that character. Now, what happened in the time leading up to that was Morbius and his turn as the Joker in Suicide Squad. Neither of those went the way that their respective studios wanted. And like with Morbius, like I think obviously being the one that
Morbius was pretty bad.
It was pretty bad, but
his Joker wasn't god awful.
I think his performance as the Joker was fine.
The nightmare scene he did was really good, I thought.
What I think got people the most about his Joker was more the way he looked than how Jared played the character. But the biggest nail in the coffin of Jared Leto as a mainstream franchise star was Morbius, and that wasn't really his fault.
He didn't write the movie.
Yeah, I think he played the character fine. It was a poor concept. It was a poor script. It had bad visuals. They didn't, and when you get to the back half of the movie, you kind of feel like they didn't really know what they were going for.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to end it. They didn't know how to. They rushed to finish it, and then they threw Michael Keaton in there for no reason whatsoever to try and build out this bigger storyline with how they were going to connect it to the Tom Holland stuff, and it didn't make any sense. Like
it's just they poo-pooed that whole thing.
Yeah, it was just it was not a good movie, but that and the Joker kind of like painted this idea in people's heads that Jared Leto can't lead a mainstream franchise, and that online chatter and that rampant negativity went into Tron, which already didn't have honestly
I don't
the
think
audience.
They were clamoring for it I don't even remember where I first seen it. Tyrone Magnus, I think, was the one I was listening to that was talking about it. He does kind of movie reviews or whatever, and that was the first person I heard really talk about it before you, and it was all negative.
Yeah,
it was like he wasn't like he didn't say anything about like this is just the worst movie ever. He just said it's boring. So that was my first, and so I was like, oh, okay, so I don't need to see that movie.
Yeah, and personally, I don't think it was boring. I loved it. It wasn't better than Legacy, but I think it had a lot of deeper metaphors to it than I think most people that watched it really gave it credit for. I think they were I think they wanted action, they wanted special effects. They weren't really as invested into this idea of the character of Ares wanting to live
Yeah.
and be real. There's a deeper subtext to that movie that if you saw it and didn't like it, maybe watch it again and kind of pay attention to that kind of stuff. It really is. I think it really is a good movie, but that kind of that kind of goes into my next point is Disney kind of Disney especially kind of chooses a new direction
Pretty quick.
when something doesn't go their way. So like a lot of people didn't like Tron Legacy when it came out. I love it. I think it's a fantastic movie. I think it's almost a damn near perfect movie.
Yeah, my wife even likes it. She's like, sorry, I had her started watching it about 2 weeks ago, and we felt we had to go to bed, but she wanted to finish watching it, and my wife says that. So okay, well,
but a lot of people didn't like it. They compared it too much to how perfect they thought the original Tron movie was.
They must have not been alive when it came out.
And so the original plans for Tron 3 fell apart. They got rid of the Sam and Cora characters, although they are referenced heavily in Ares. You could tell that there's a bigger plan to bring them back. They didn't rely on those characters in this outing because of the negative backlash that Legacy initially received. But what happened with Ares is it brought this resurgence back for Legacy.
Yeah.
And now Legacy was like a top chart streamer in the time leading up to and in the time after Tron Ares, because people were going back, they were revisiting this movie, they were realizing how good it was, they were realizing how good the characters of Sam Flynn and Cora were, and that resurgence is part of a greater phenomena that I have coined the Phantom Menace effect. And circling it back to Star Wars, what you started seeing with Disney Star Wars was this greater appreciation for the prequels.
Yes.
The prequel trilogy was hated.
I've always
relentlessly hated.
I've always supported the prequels, and if you're too young and weren't there when it came out, a lot of haters. Yeah, I was alone all the time.
So many haters, and I think the simple fact that there wasn't Facebook and Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, and all these other social media platforms that have given these anonymous keyboard warriors their platform. If any of that had existed at the time, the hate for those movies would have gone to a such greater level. But you had people doing like letter campaigns, like to our younger audience. Letters are something that people used to write out by hand and put in this physical transport system that we call the mail.
Mm-hmm.
They had letter writing campaigns to have those movies remade. Like, people hated Phantom Menace and Attack the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. But 10 years goes by between Revenge of the Sith and The Force Awakens. Force Awakens comes out, and it's kind of like it leans very heavy into the nostalgia of the original trilogy. You only actually get one mention of the prequels in Force Awakens, which was
perhaps Leader Snoke should consider using a clone army.
But it leaned very heavily into the original trilogy, and it kind of like started rebuilding that audience. But then two things kind of happened as Disney Star Wars unfolded. One, the main storyline started taking a downturn, and people didn't like The Last Jedi. People didn't like Rise of Skywalker. They started to revisit the prequels, and now where they used to only say that the original trilogy was real Star Wars. Like that was my Star Wars. Now they're bringing the prequels back into it, and they're calling George Lucas Star Wars in its entirety. Those 6 films, that is now real Star Wars, and Disney Star Wars isn't real Star Wars. There's now this appreciation for the prequels, but you also started to see stuff in the Disney Plus stuff, like with
and, Obi-Wan,
the stuff made by the stuff specifically made by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, with less involvement by Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger, really started to lean into the prequels. And it started subtle, you know, the introduction of
man down.
I don't even know if I'm going to edit that out.
I know.
You guys get to enjoy a little bit of behind the scenes.
That's what happens when you collect toys.
Yeah.
You'll just be sitting there and you'd be like, ghost?
It started subtle, and there were just little things like with the pit droids showing up on Tatooine and The Mandalorian, and the acquisition of the N1 Naboo starfighter, with that Mando gets in the Book of Boba Fett after the Razor Crest is destroyed.
Is that a Naboo starfighter?
It's like you were like actually happy to see that kind of stuff get incorporated. And then I think the Phantom Menace effect really kind of reached its apex on Disney Star Wars when they announced that Hayden Christensen was going to come back for Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka. Yeah. And like people were excited. Like Hayden Christensen got so much hate initially for episode 2 and episode 3. Like people were calling him a trash actor, and I think it really had a negative effect on his career. You didn't see much of him. I think there was
movie Jump, I think.
Yeah. I actually forgot about that one. I know he was in a movie called Factory Girl about Andy Warhol, and his character actually didn't have a name. He was called the Musician. I think he was supposed to be like a Bob Dylan type, but he was really good in that movie. He did that movie with Kevin Kline, was like billed as his first like big post Star Wars performance, although it technically came out first. Everybody knew who Hayden Christensen was because he had been getting talked about for the 2 years leading up to Star Wars. So he was actually like, that movie was marketed as and starring Star Wars as Hayden Christensen. But that was really like kind of it. Like you didn't get a lot out of him because
of negativity,
because of all the negativity towards him and his performance. And now all of a sudden people are like excited to have him back. And that the scene in Obi-Wan Kenobi where they flash back to that episode 2 era when they were doing their lightsaber training, like that was a great scene. And especially when you think of like how it tied into their duel later in that episode as Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, and seeing him come back in Ahsoka wearing the Clone Wars armor.
I love that.
Like people were so happy that stuff like that was happening, and now like we're kind of riding that excitement into Ahsoka season 2, like especially with the news that he's going to be in it more than he was. Like people want to see where that's going, and I think it just kind of comes, the validation of those movies also comes around to better storytelling, because you know, as great of a filmmaker as George Lucas is, his greatest strength is in writing, like not literal writing, not dialogue, but in crafting a story. His actual like directorial output is not super fantastic, the way he pushes technology ahead of its time, I think has kind of a negative effect on how it looks, and it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel grounded. So Disney Star Wars with their improved special effects, that's kind of like more ready for this audience, and filmmakers that have really kind of crafted their talent, and especially in the case of people like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who love Star Wars so much
You could
that
feel it with the first
they put so much care
Mandalorian.
into it, that they are crafting these stories with these prequel elements, and they're legitimizing them. They're making sense of them, and they're making them feel like part of the Star Wars lore and the experience, and that's helping people to accept the prequels once again as true, like real Star Wars. And that's an effect that I think we need to get into with the sequel trilogy. And the problem with the sequel trilogy was that it was so directionless that, like, I'm never going to sit there and tell people that one day you're going to love the sequel trilogy. Like, it's not going to happen.
Maybe, I don't know. You never know.
But if we kind of cut back a little bit on the rampant negativity, and we just kind of accept some of the more positive elements and let people craft a story, I think we can be a little surprised with what we're given. The sequel trilogy didn't give Rey any material, but I still think that Rey is a good character. And if they could get like that new Jedi Order movie off the ground, I think we could be a little pleasantly surprised with what that character can turn into if she's given the proper like thought process and the proper care that like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau gave to the prequel elements that they injected into their stories. I think we can just kind of like accept the sequel trilogy for what it was and start moving on. Like, we don't have to move away from those characters. I think we can move on with those characters and craft like really, really good stories around them, and kind of like go back and like maybe retcon some of the decisions that were made by kind of like filling in the gaps with a little bit more like thought and backstory, and say like, well, this happened because of this. I think if we apply that thought and that care, I think we can really get to a good place with those characters. I don't think we need to just be done with them.
Well, Disney needs to stand their ground on what they're doing and not try to ride the wave of what's going on the internet. That doesn't. I was thinking about this while you were saying that, but they were almost riding the wave of feedback like they used to do with TV shows. But you're not doing these movies that we're talking about aren't TV. They're not going to be a continuation of 40-minute episodes for 25 episodes or for how many ever it is. You know, back in the day, they would kind of ride the wave a little bit of feedback from the audience on TV shows. But with these movies, it's not working because obviously we see what we got with Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. I think they need to kind of that George Lucas mindset of this is what I got, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I wrote, and this is what we're doing. Yeah. Instead of trying to fix it as you go along, which I think that's kind of what they did. And then they got to Rise of Skywalker, and it was such a hot mess that they're just like,
well, you definitely need to have a plan in place with where you want the storyline to go, and obviously the next thing is going to be the Mandalorian and Grogu, which I'm excited about. I don't know if that's going to be the savior story for Star Wars, mainly because turning it into a movie wasn't the plan.
Yeah.
So that's
kind of curious where it's going with that.
yeah, that's still kind of falling into the fix it as you go mentality, because it was supposed to be season 4 of the show. They turned it into a movie. They slashed the budget. They cut 6 hours out of the story. So we'll see what happens there. But I think the make or break point is really going to be with Starfighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for real.
And there was a lot of pushback on Starfighter recently with that online negativity, because like a reliable source came out and said that the storyline is going to revolve around Ryan Gosling's character taking the force sensitive boy played by Flynn Gray somewhere safe because he's being hunted. Flynn Gray's character is the son, supposedly, of Amy Adams, who the insider source says is a Jedi that survived Luke's Jedi Order.
Right.
When it was
Kylo.
when it was destroyed by Kylo and the Knights of Ren.
I was like, I don't know.
And then that information immediately started like the fan speculation of, is Amy Adams with her red hair going to be Mara Jade? And you know, most of our viewing audience probably knows who Mara Jade is, but just in case you don't, minor recap: Mara Jade was Emperor Palpatine's backup apprentice that was introduced in the book Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn, which those books and all pre-Disney era Star Wars books obviously have been decanonized and reclassified as the Legends storyline. But a lot of characters and elements from those books have made it into canon. The most obvious one being Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was also the villain in that Heir to the Empire trilogy. You know, he got brought into Rebels and later Ahsoka. The planet of Coruscant obviously was introduced in Heir to the Empire, and that got canonized when George Lucas put it in the prequel trilogy. So they're picking and choosing these elements that they think the fans want to see and that they can still put their spin on. So there was a lot of fan speculation about whether or not Amy Adams was going to be Mara Jade, which then put the speculation on whether or not Flynn Gray's character was going to be Luke Skywalker's secret son. So much negativity, primarily because they thought that it was ultimately going to lead back to Rey. That the safe place that Ryan Gosling is taking this boy to is going to be Rey's new Jedi Order, and that it would be kind of a transition phase back into the new Jedi Order film that they want to do. Honestly, if that's the case, I'm not opposed to it, because I think that can be the jumping off point to kind of like re-legitimize some of the decisions that were made in the sequel trilogy and start building into a new storyline using these characters and this point that we're in the timeline to, if properly crafted, become something really, really good. And I think having the boy be Luke's son could kind of help retroactively fix some of the decisions that were made with the Luke Skywalker
I think
character.
You can do that, and if you use a Skywalker name, you're probably going to keep you're going to attract people that are old like us to it, possibly. But I've heard other people talk about this, and they feel like I don't have a number of people, but I feel like there's a lot of fans out there that are kind of wanting to just kind of let's kind of get away from the Skywalker saga
and that's
everything.
and I can agree with that. I don't think you need to do episodes anymore. I think the idea of episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, episode 9, I think all of that ended with the Rise of Skywalker. I think going forward you can just have Star Wars Starfighter, Star Wars The New Jedi Order, and title the films that way, and just kind of like have this almost Marvel Cinematic Universe storyline where all these movies are interconnected, but they're not. It's not Marvel Episode 1 Iron Man.
Well, it's kind of like I forgot what you were saying earlier about Mandalorian. So you were talking about all the shows and like Book of Boba Fett and all that. I feel like they shouldn't have done all these different shows. I think they should have just done one, like a Star Wars story or something, and prioritize the Mandalorian in it, and kind of mix in the stuff with Boba Fett and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan.
Which they kind of did. I mean, they made each one their own show, but it is still part of the bigger storyline. Like if you watch like Mandalorian season 1, Mandalorian season 2, Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian season 3, Ahsoka season 1, Skeleton Crew, that tells a story like kind of the same way that the Marvel Cinematic Universe told its story. And that can be what you do going forward. Now that being said, Sean Levy, the director of Starfighter, did recently come out and like re-clarify that Star Wars is the first standalone Star Wars movie, by which I mean like obviously Rogue One came out, obviously Solo came out. Those were technically considered standalone movies, but they were tied to the bigger storyline. Like Rogue One, obviously very heavily tied to where A New Hope began. Solo being tied to the Han Solo character. This is supposedly going to be the first Star Wars movie that, while taking place at 5 years or so after the Rise of Skywalker, is not supposed to be tied to any of the events of anything that preceded it, and not feature any characters or direct ties to characters for anything that preceded it. It's supposed to be the first movie that completely starts like relatively fresh and goes in its own direction. Now, I don't know if that's true or if that's just Sean Levy trying to kind of quell the negative backlash that resulted from those supposed insider leaks. But if any of that stuff is true, even if it's just so much as the boy being force sensitive and his mother being a Jedi, that detail alone still kind of anchors it a little bit to the sequel trilogy. I don't know how it's going to end. I don't know how you can end it in a way that it's completely standalone. If they want to bridge out of it, I almost feel like you do need to, at the very least, allude to the idea that this boy is going to end up in Rey's New Jedi Order, but it's going to take proper storytelling, proper planning, and honestly, the right people behind the wheel. I am a very, very outspoken person on social media that I think Bryce Dallas Howard should be the director of the Rey New Jedi Order movie. Right now, they're still billing that Charmin Obaid Chinoy.
I can't say any of those names.
I'm probably butchering.
Just go ahead and butcher it.
I'm butchering the pronunciation of her name, I'm sure. But she was announced as the director of the New Jedi Order when that was in a much more active stage of development, and I think it immediately met that negative fan backlash because her first interview after being announced was her coming out and saying that this movie is going to upset the patriarchy. And it just
That doesn't help any.
it brought you back into that wokeism mentality where you got to remember, like you said earlier, your heavier, your dominant Star Wars fan base is male. That's not to say that there aren't female fans. In fact, there's there's a lot more female fans.
I would
now
love for my
than
daughter
there-
to
than
love
there
Star
used-
Wars. But she
Same.
does.
I have been trying to get my daughters into Star Wars. My youngest daughter did enjoy watching the Young Jedi Adventures for a little while, and I actually had it on this morning trying to like get her back into it.
Yeah.
It's not really working out. But when your main audience is still male and your director of this female-led movie comes out and says it's going to upset the patriarchy, that's in the wrong direction. And that woman as a director herself doesn't really have much to her credit. She's predominantly a documentary filmmaker that covers like wars in the Middle East. Mainstream wise, the only thing that she's directed was, I think she did 1 or 2 episodes of Miss Marvel. And that was her introduction
I tried watching
into
that
Disney.
show.
I didn't watch it.
I put it on. I was like, when they came out with it, they were like, it was kind of geared more towards girls, I guess. So I tried to get my daughter to it. So I put it on just to play it. If I didn't watch it, hopefully maybe she would get into it. But it was just kind of.
So I don't really think that she has the credibility to be billed as the first female director of a Star Wars movie. I think that kind of like honor, if you will, really belongs, in my opinion, to Bryce Dallas Howard, who, for anybody who doesn't know her by her name, was the main actress in the Jurassic World trilogy, the initial Jurassic World trilogy, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and Dominion. She was Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man 3.
Oh yeah.
But
I love her.
She's also, in addition to being Ron Howard's daughter, why she was not involved in the Willow TV series really blows my mind.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
But she's also now, it's come out after the confirmation of how many episodes of Ahsoka season 2 she's directed. She has now directed more episodes of Disney Plus Star Wars than any other director attached to those shows. She's directed episodes of The Mandalorian. She directed episodes of The Book of Boba Fett. She directed episodes of Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew. She has directed a lot of Star Wars, and all of her episodes have been great, if not the best episodes in their respective seasons, outside of maybe ones that Dave Filoni directed himself. I cannot stress enough, if you want the Rey movie to succeed, you need somebody who loves Star Wars, loves these characters, and has experience directing in this world. I genuinely believe that if you want Starfighter to be the transition film that gets the franchise back on track, that you need to follow it up with the Rey New Jedi Order movie, and you need to have Bryce Dallas Howard behind the wheel of that car or that ship, because she loves this world, because she has the same amount of reverence for it and the characters that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau had when they created The Mandalorian.
I agree. I was thinking about when you were saying getting somebody that really loves it, if they get someone that doesn't love it and just isn't slightly obsessed with the Star Wars movies and stuff, it's gonna be another miss, because very rarely do you get, maybe I think back to like a movie they got someone to direct that wasn't a fan, was like Freddy versus Jason. he knew nothing about him, but ended up somehow or another.
Star Trek Nemesis.
Yeah.
They really wanted the guy. I can't even think of his name right now. The guy that directed Star Trek Nemesis, like he was under contract with Paramount, I think, to direct something.
Yeah.
And they originally wanted the guy that directed the motion picture, I think, to come back and direct Star Trek Nemesis and have it be like this open and shut thing with the Star Wars franchise, but he declined. So they had this other guy under contract that needed to direct something. So they gave him Star Trek Nemesis, and he didn't know anything about Star Trek. He didn't know anything about the characters. He didn't even know how to pronounce. I think LeVar Burton. I think he didn't know how to even pronounce his name, and there was like a lot of animosity on set. And so that movie ended up not being what anybody wanted it to be, especially as what at the time was intended to be the end of the Star Trek franchise. So yeah, you really need somebody that wants to be in this world and knows this world, and that's how you succeed. Like I think Sean Levy's probably obviously a Star Wars fan. If you look at his movies like Deadpool and Wolverine, Free Guy, he's obviously somebody who kind of like loves these different properties, and he injects a lot of fan service into them. So I have all the confidence in the world that Starfighter is going to be good, because you've got somebody steering it that loves these kinds of properties. And that's what you're going to need going forward. You need to stop hiring people that you think are just going to make flashy headlines and have some kind of social, political, cultural impact. And like, you need to just remember that these are properties that have been around for a while, and you need somebody in charge that loves them. And kind of bringing it back to the Phantom Menace effect, I think we're already kind of in that period a little bit for the sequel trilogy, because of the story that came out recently that Adam Driver had pitched to Lucasfilm a movie called The Hunt for Ben Solo.
Who was Bob Iger was like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Was that him?
Yeah, obviously, as Scott just said, Bob Iger shot that movie down because he didn't understand how Ben Solo could be alive. But like, they had a script written and everything. But Adam Driver loves Star Wars. He loves the character of Kylo Ren.
He's a good actor too.
And I think I am sure, like, especially since he was working on it with Steven Soderbergh, who is obviously like a very prominent film director, having done like the Ocean's 11 movies and stuff like that. I think the two of them together, I am positive, crafted this really great storyline out of nothing but love and respect for the property. And it just completely, like, it got just shot away. But now the fans are like finding out, like, you know, we could have had this movie. We could have had the hunt. We could have had the Hunt for Ben Solo. And there's so much going on right now. There's like a billboard in Times Square talking about, like, we want the Hunt for Ben Solo, and with the tagline, "No one's ever really gone." Like that moment from The Last Jedi, that honestly, it almost brought a tear to my eye when it happened, because this was right after Carrie Fisher had passed away, and you've got Luke Skywalker sitting with Princess Leia. They were obviously talking about Han Solo in the film, but just that line, "No one's ever really gone," just it almost made me cry like a baby after having just lost Carrie Fisher. But that line, like, especially when you look at the deeper meaning of it, connecting it to Kylo Ren and being Princess Leia's son, that there is a way for these characters to come back. And that I'm sure, since they had a whole script written, I'm sure they had something that made sense, and it would have been this perfect love letter to characters that had so much potential, and just for one bad decision or another, didn't get to be fully appreciated. That is what we don't need to just move on to the next stage of Star Wars. Like, if you want these movies to have the cultural impact that the original trilogy had, that the prequel trilogy had, that we need to just start embracing them and stop throwing all this rampant negativity out into social media, and just let these movies happen, and let them happen by people that know and love and respect the storyline and the world, that we can have nice things.
Yeah. I just had an idea what they could do with Kylo Ren to bring him back. The Kylo Ren in the movies was a clone the whole time. That would be a way to go. And then, like, he comes back, somehow he was in carbonite or something, and they had him put away, and they were using him as like a pawn, and he still has some connection to his clone with the Force or something, and then he comes back that way.
Anything's possible, or you could just build out the lore of the Force. Like, obviously, like, the netherworld of the Force is not actually like a thing that I think I saw it online recently. I don't read the Marvel comic books that come out anymore. I started to at the very beginning, but I don't read comic books anymore. I didn't stick with it. But I did see something on Facebook or X about Kylo's Force spirit going into the netherworld of the Force, which is, I think, basically just supposed to be heaven.
Yeah.
And he's talking to Luke Skywalker, and all the other Jedi are in there. But you can probably have something in the lore of the Force that permits somebody to, like, come out and be resurrected, or maybe he's cloned and his Force spirit rejoins with the cloned body. Like, I don't know, but we need to explore these things and not just sweep them under the rug like they never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, embrace what we were given and make it better. That, in my opinion, is how you save Star Wars. Don't just ignore it. Don't pull a Halloween franchise and just say, you know what, those Halloween 2 through 8 never happened. We're gonna make a new Halloween movie, and that's going to be the real sequel. And they're doing the same thing with the Mummy now. As we all know now, Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and Oded Ferrer and, like, all those guys.
I've seen some posts about it, but I'm just like,
they're coming back for the Mummy 4, and it's going to ignore the events of Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, which, I mean, if that's the route that they're going to go, fine. And the only reason why I'm okay with it in that respect is because Rachel Weisz wasn't in Dragon Emperor.
yeah.
So for them to feel like they all belong together, I think just cherry picking that one out and just having these 3 movies with the consistent cast, and probably having it center around Egypt the entire time, I think that will make that franchise feel cohesive. But
Brendan Fraser's getting on up there.
Well, I mean, all of them are. But
he's had like some physical problems, like from all the physical stuff he did.
But he's getting back into shape. Like, you've seen pictures of him after he got his Oscar for The Whale. He's been getting back into
interesting
shape.
movie. Did you watch The Whale?
I didn't watch it.
Those are the kind of movies I like. Those kind of movies. For some, Jess doesn't get why I do, but
I used to watch all that Oscar bait stuff, but now I'm at a point in my life now where, like, I don't really watch a lot of new stuff because I'm comforted by the stuff that I love.
Yeah.
So I go back and I watch Star Wars over and over again. I watch Star Trek: The Next Generation from start to finish multiple times. I watch Highlander. I love my franchises, and I don't go out of my way to watch a lot of like new and like artistic dramatic stuff anymore, because it's just not what I'm into. Not to say that they're bad, but like I'm sure the work that goes into them is incredible, and I have nothing but respect for what Brendan Fraser accomplished with, I'm sure, with that movie. I just it's not what I want anymore.
Yeah. Well, it was an interesting movie. I'll say the ending was a little, like usual, depressing with those movies. So um, I don't know the whole mummy thing though. I don't know, man. We just kind of
I think
how I feel about them doing that.
I think that is going to be one of the biggest events in movies, and I think that is going to be a movie that gets people back in theaters.
The Mummy.
There's going to be so many millennials in that theater, and
I mean, don't get me wrong. I
Awesome.
love the Mummy and the Mummy Returns, but I just don't. I don't know how I feel. If it's, I'm not going to say if it comes out and I start seeing stuff on it. I mean, I'm a sucker for Brendan Fraser, so I mean,
like I said, there's going to be so many millennials in that theater. It's going to be packed, and I'm all for it. I think that is what we need. I think something that people love to get them back in. Like, nobody was asking for Tron Ares, and nobody's really asking, obviously, for more Star Wars at this point. But like, if we're going to get it, we need to do it right. But we need if the film industry is going to survive, we need stuff like The Mummy 4. We need something that people love, being done by the right people that also love it. It's not going to be the greatest movie that ever was made. It's actually probably going to be schlocky as hell, just like the first two were, but it's going to be wonderful.
yeah. Well, I'm not gonna be negative in any way about it, but I'm gonna hold my breath a little bit on it. And I mean, we don't know if it's gonna happen yet either, so but we'll see. I'll go to the theater and see if it comes out.
I mean, we're all going to go together. Stop acting like we're not. Stop acting like we're not.
If it comes out, I will go to the theater and support it, though. So
we are all going together. With that, everybody, thank you for joining us for the inaugural episode of The Outer Rim. We've got a lot more in store for you, so please hit that like and subscribe button that everybody on all these YouTube shows is always talking about. And we will see you next time.
Later, guys.